Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Two promo codes to be aware of. BiteSquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show, Steve. It should be a good one. Thanks for having me, Steven.
Double S anytime, man.
Christopher Mando Russo here. You are listening to Steven Strom on TalkNorth.com.
Always passionate, always fiery. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. Take it away, Steven.
Pop the champagne, the Minnesota Twins are your 2019 AL Central champions. What a year we have had. Welcome in here to another edition of the Strom Sports Show. Steven Strom here on TalkNorth.com. Big thanks to my producer, Brandon Morton, Matt Augusta. And if you want to advertise with the show, make sure to contact Jim Suhan. He's also on that website, TalkNorth.com. Episode 66 today. We've got a bunch to get into. We'll start with the Twins. We'll move to Jeff Dickerson from ESPN. He is the beat writer for the Chicago Bears. He'll break down everything we need to know for today, the X factors, and all of that good stuff. We also have the three things that we learned against the Oakland Raiders. I'll discuss that in just a bit. And a new segment for you guys, whiners and shiners of week 3. Instead of the winners and losers, the generic, I did a lot of brainstorming these last few days, and I came up with whiners and shiners. I'll break down my whiner of the week, people that are crying for no reason, if they're over-exaggerating, and also we got the shiners, the guys that elevated their team and their game itself and separate them from the rest of the pack. But first, let me begin with this, man. The Minnesota Twins, on September 30th, 2018, about a year ago, I had no idea when I would see the Twins back in the playoffs again. Last year was a disaster. Joe Mauer had just played his last game. Almost every Twins fan was in tears on September 30th. The team finished with a frustrating season, going 78-84. They had injuries left and right. Every damn person in that organization associated with the Twins felt like there was some type of injury in that year. And that offseason, the Twins decided to move on from Paul Molitor, a guy that had just won AL Manager of the Year 2 years ago. The Twins had moved on from. Jorge Polanco was busted for PEDs. The needle on the compass for this franchise was spinning in multiple directions after that year. And honestly, I had no idea what direction they even were headed in. I knew the future of the Twins couldn't stay healthy between Sano and Buxton. Jorge Polanco, as I said, was coming off a PED suspension. Max Kepler didn't look like he'd taken the next step last year, or he was going to take anytime soon. And no one in America had any idea who Luis Arraez was. So the offseason comes around. Levine and Valvey went out, and they signed Nelson Cruz and C.J. Cron and Jonathan Scope that offseason. 3 veterans that I'm sure many Twins fans thought would just be busts, as everyone else that they signed were big-name home run guys, a.k.a. Logan Morrison. And now we fast forward. We fast forward to a year later. 98 wins, as we speak right now. A new nickname in the Bomba Squad. Breaking the MLB single-season team home run record in just 135 games. An electric Target Field. Miguel Sano hitting 30 home runs, Nelson Cruz hitting 38, Max Kepler 36, Eddie Rosario 31, Mitch Garver, for God's sake, at 30 home runs. Jake Odorizzi career year, Martin Perez comes out of nowhere, Rocco Baldelli in his first year, Marwin Gonzalez comes in, fills in admirably, and Falvey and Levine, who a lot of people doubted, including myself, shut every one of their haters up this season. Because for the first time since 2010, the Twins have clinched the AL Central. This team has been resilient when adversity is hit, especially back in July when they lost that series against Cleveland, and Cleveland took a half-game lead. They could have folded. Adversity hits to a team that in a lot of people's minds were a fluke. They could have folded. They didn't. Guys stepped up in big spots when people got injured. Buxton gets injured, next man up. Sano gets injured, next man up. Gonzalez, Kepler, next man up mentality. And then you also had guys just have career years that have completely rewritten their career. Jake Odorizzi, Martin Perez. I mean, even Miguel Sano to an extent, because a lot of people were sick of his off-the-field antics and him not being in shape. 30-plus home runs and the amount of bats he's been in is pretty ridiculous. It has been one hell of a season. But what they do in October, that's what's going to separate this team from historic to unforgettable. Minnesota hasn't seen a championship since 1991. Can the Twins break that drought? If the Twins can somehow miraculously make a run like this will be one of the greatest stories in sports. For a bunch of guys that were no names to get to the biggest stage and deliver at the highest stakes, I'm telling you, it would be an unforgettable championship run. It would break the city of Minnesota. And let me tell you something, it'd bring a lot of happiness to that state. Because God knows, Minnesota hasn't seen a championship since 1991, and I'm not counting the Lynx. What they do in October, that will separate this team from historic to unforgettable. Let's segue to this. Let's get the music going. It is the 3 things that we learned from Sunday's Viking game. All right, here we go. This was a game where I think a lot of people, including myself, looked back at last year and said, okay, this cannot happen again. Buffalo, they were a 16.5-point favorite. You'd think that Zimmer's going to have them ready, and he did. This team is day and night from home to away games. They really took it to Oakland, 34-14. Dalvin Cook has been incredible, an early MVP candidate, 16 rushes, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Alexander Mattinson, 12 rushes, 58 yards. Cousins did what he had to do, didn't over-impress, didn't turn the ball over, can't ask for much from him. The defense played tremendously, so let's get into it here. First thing that we learned from this game, the Vikings at home versus on the road is day and night. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the crowd. I don't know if it's the comfortability. I don't know if it's the familiarity. But my goodness, this team from home to away, I mean, it is not even comparable. When they're on that first possession of defense, the defense is jumping up and down. They're pumping up the crowd. They're into it. They're energized. They're sharp. You don't see that on the road. I don't know if that's a Mike Zimmer issue. I don't know what it is. But it is day and night from when they're home and when they're on their road. It is tremendously different. The comfortability they play at, the confidence they play at, and once they get a lead at US Bank Stadium, it has been curtains for the opposing team. So that's the first thing that we learned here. The Vikings are an incredible home team, but they have to shear out whatever it is, anything that they have against these road games. They're going to have to go on the road today and play a tough Chicago team. They have to win some of these games. They can't just be a single-dimensional home game team. So we'll keep an eye on that. Number 2 thing that we learned here is Irv Smith can play. 3 catches, 60 yards. You've been waiting for him to have some type of game like this just to get a feel for where he's at. He is a athletic, fast tight end that we see in some of these, plays on Sunday. He can beat linebackers and he can beat corners. I mean, he is very athletic, and unfortunately for Kyle Rudolph, he caught a screen pass. He moves like a turtle. I'm sorry. Irv Smith is going to eventually take over his number 1 tight end spot because they just have to. Right now, Irv Smith is more effective than Kyle Rudolph in the passing game. I mean, that's just the bottom line. He can jump higher. He has better hands, and he can also run a lot faster after the catch. Kyle Rudolph has gotten old here. I don't want to say it was a mistake bringing him back. I'm happy he's back. He's a good guy. But Irv Smith, sooner or later, is going to start taking off those number 1 reps in that tight end position. We'll watch out for it here. But this was a big game for Smith. Viking fans kind of said, where is this guy the first 2 games? He didn't do much. He didn't catch any balls. He actually caught 1 against Green Bay, but he didn't do anything in the first game. You kind of sat around and said, okay, this is game 3 now. What is he? He comes out, has a really solid game. He actually got a catch called back because of a penalty. He could have had 4 catches this game. But expect Irv Smith now to be a bigger part of this Vikings offense going forward. Number 3, and this is the one negative I'll say about the defense. the defense does struggle with athletic tight ends. I mean, last year you saw George Kittle, Jimmy Graham, Zach Ertz. They all finished with at least 5 catches and 90 yards against them. And this Raiders tight end, Darren Waller, oh my goodness, he had himself a career day on Sunday. He finished this game with 13 catches, 134 yards. And his 13 catches, by the way, are the most an opposing tight end has ever ended up having in a single game versus the Vikings. You look ahead in this schedule, they're going to face more athletic tight ends. They've got the Giants and Evan Ingram. They've got the Eagles and Zach Ertz, who in a lot of people's eyes is number 1. And if he's not number 1, you'll face Travis Kelce in Kansas City. Kansas City has Travis Kelce. He's arguably 1, if not 2, best tight end in football. You also have Hunter Henry for the Chargers. He's injured right now, but you'll probably see him later in the year. And also TJ Hawkinson for Detroit. So this is going to be, Zimmer's going to have some improving to do with this defense against these types of players, and this is what they're struggling against, these athletic tight ends that give these linebackers problems. Now, yes, I know Anthony Barr was out, and Eric Wilson played a very good game, but they're going to have to figure out how to stop these athletic tight ends before this grows into a bigger problem going forward. You don't want to have this happen towards the end of the year. You want to eliminate this problem as soon as you can. Hopefully Mike Zimmer will do that. All right, 3 things we learned. The Vikings, as we know, home versus away, it's day and night. Irv Smith can play. And also, this defense needs to get a lot better against athletic tight ends. Coming up next year, don't you leave. I'm going to have Jeff Dickerson from ESPN break down all the matchups you need to know and all the X factors that you need to know going into today's game. And we're joined here by ESPN Chicago Bears beat writer Jeff Dickerson. He's also a host on ESPN Radio. You can catch that, Dickerson and Hood. Jeff, Steven Strom here from TalkNorth.com. Thank you very much. I know you're busy. Thank you for carving out some time for me today.
Steven, my pleasure. Great to be on with you, man.
I read your article a few days ago on Mitchell Trubisky, and he has struggled mightily the first 2 games, and he had a big bounce-back game Monday night. Jeff, I'm sure you get the question a lot, but I want to hear it from your perspective. Can he be the guy going forward to lead this franchise?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of leading the franchise. Like, can he be a quarterback that the Bears can go to the playoffs with? I think last year proved that the answer to that question is yes. Matt Nagy, since he took over as Bears head coach, and Trubisky missed a couple of games last year, but I mean, they're 14-5 under Matt Nagy in a year and 3 games right now. So you can win with Trubisky. If you're going to ask Trubisky to be the number 1 reason why you make the playoffs or why you reach a Super Bowl and maybe one day win a Super Bowl, I don't quite get the sense that he's that type of player. But if they can find a way to get him playing slightly above average football with that Bears defense, I think that they can be successful. And really, the record has shown that they have been successful. Now, the problem is there are games that Trubisky plays well below average. If they could even that out and just get him playing at like a B level and the defense stays healthy and stays together, I think that's why Chicago views themselves as a legitimate championship contender.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think a lot of other people would. And Trubisky, if you like you said, if he can just play even decently well and not turn the ball over with that Chicago defense, they've got some playmakers offensively, and of course, Matt Nagy, who I think in a lot of people's mind are moving into that tier 1 of best coaches in the league. I think they're going to be a dangerous team if they can get the quarterback play going here. Let's go on the other side of the ball. Dalvin Cook. He is off to an incredible start, 375 rushing yards, 6.6 yards per carry. It's a video game type number, 4 touchdowns. First of all, I wanted to get your take. Where do you rank him in terms of best running back so far this season? And what do you think Chicago's going to have to do to try to slow him down?
Yeah, well, he's one of the best. I would say Dalvin Cook, no question, through the Vikings' first 3 games, is one of the best running backs in the league. The Bears have some injuries up front they're dealing with. They're going to be without Bilal Nichols again. They're promising young defensive tackle out with a broken hand. Team Hicks is going to be a game-time decision, and that would be a huge loss if he can't play because he's so effective as that big body inside stopping the run.